Nobody thought much of Earth when the Galactic Council first discovered us. Just another Class 3 death world with primitive bipeds barely able to escape their own gravity well. The Vraxians called us soft shells. The Kulorian Empire dismissed us as ephemeral meat-things, and even the normally diplomatic Syntheri ambassadors struggled to hide their condescension. After all, what threat could a species pose when they lacked natural armor, possessed no venom glands, and couldn't even regrow limbs? But they never bothered to study our history. Commander Sarah Chen watched the alien delegation from across the conference room, her weathered face betraying nothing as the 7-foot-tall Kulorian representative droned on about integration protocols and vassal state limitations. 20 years in special forces had taught her patience, the same patience her ancestors had used when tracking prey for days across the African savanna, wearing down creatures far faster and stronger until they simply collapsed from exhaustion. The Council has determined that humanity will require approximately 70 standard cycles to reach acceptable technological parity, the translator conveyed. Until then, Earth will benefit from our protection and guidance. Sarah caught Admiral Okonkwo's subtle eye movement, a signal to hold position. Not yet. The room felt charged with an energy only the humans seemed to notice. The other species representatives continued typing notes or gazing disinterestedly out the viewport at Earth below, completely missing the predatory stillness that had fallen over the human delegation. They didn't recognize the signs. How could they? Evolution had shaped them differently. Furthermore, the Kulorian continued. Your dangerous biological tendencies toward territorial aggression must be managed through chemical pacification of your population centers. The Council assures this process is quite humane. Dr. Takahashi, their xenobiologist, leaned forward slightly. Fascinating proposal. Could you elaborate on these chemical compounds? Our physiology is quite unique, as I've repeatedly mentioned in my reports. The Council races exchanged looks, reports they hadn't bothered reading, data they dismissed. Even now, they saw Dr. Takahashi as just another curious primitive, not recognizing the cold calculation behind his gentle eyes. Most galactic species had evolved as specialized organisms, perfect for their ecological niches. The Vraxians with their diamond-hard exoskeletons, the Syntheri with their photosynthetic capabilities and communal consciousness, the Kulorians with their regenerative biology. Specialized, optimized, inflexible. Humanity had never had that luxury. Your attention, please. Admiral Okonkwo finally spoke, his deep voice carrying across the room without seeming to raise in volume. We've reviewed your integration proposal carefully. Unfortunately, we must decline. The translator buzzed with multiple voices speaking simultaneously. The Vraxian representative's exoskeleton clicked agitatedly. This isn't a negotiation. The Council's decision is final. Sarah allowed herself a small smile as she opened the secure datapad. Let me be clear. We're not refusing to join your galactic community. We're refusing your terms. She slid the pad across the polished table. These are our counter-proposals. This is unprecedented, hissed the Syntheri representative, compound eyes blinking rapidly. No species at your development stage has ever had access to your military transmission protocols. Lieutenant Rivera interrupted, her young face deceptively innocent. Or complete schematics of your propulsion systems. Or perhaps, she paused, detailed bioscans of your species' physiological weaknesses. The silence that followed was absolute. Sarah could almost smell the fear now emanating from the delegation. It reminded her of mountain lions she'd encountered while hiking, the moment they realized they weren't the apex predator they thought they were. How? The Kulorian finally managed. You've spent the last 3 years studying us. Admiral Okonkwo said simply. Did you think we weren't studying you? The human delegation had rehearsed this moment extensively, but seeing the shock ripple through the alien representatives still brought Sarah a deep satisfaction. They'd underestimated humanity at every turn. Assumed our friendliness was naivety. Our curiosity was harmlessness. Our adaptability was desperation. They'd failed to understand the fundamental truth about humans. We evolved as pursuit predators on a world that tried to kill us at every turn. We didn't just survive our death world. We conquered it. Your security measures were designed to stop beings with your evolutionary backgrounds, Dr. Takahashi explained gently, as though to children. Logical, methodical, specialized. But humans, we think differently. We see patterns where there are none. We take risks without calculating odds. We cooperate in ways your societies never needed to develop. Sarah watched the aliens process this information, their faces, or what passed for faces, showing varying degrees of comprehension and alarm. The Vraxians' mandibles were now completely still, a sign of extreme stress, according to their intelligence. We've been transmitting this entire conversation to Earth's unified command, Lieutenant Rivera added. 17 of your supposedly hidden observation posts are currently being approached by our vessels. Not for destruction, she clarified, seeing the panic in their reactions, but to establish more equitable monitoring arrangements. The Zinthari representative's color shifted to a pallid blue. This could be considered an act of war. Admiral Okonkwo's laugh was genuine but carried no humor. If we wanted war, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We want partnership, but as equals, not pets. He gestured to the window overlooking Earth. Look again at our primitive world. What do you see? The aliens turned reluctantly. You see a Class 3 death world. We see home. The place that forged us through countless extinctions and catastrophes. Sarah stood, her posture straight but not threatening. Every human alive today descends from survivors. We've outlasted ice ages, supervolcanoes, plagues, and our own self-destructive tendencies. We fought predators that would make your security forces retreat in terror, and then, for good measure, we painted pictures of them on our cave walls. The delegation was silent now, reassessing everything they thought they knew about humanity. We don't want your pity or your protection, Sarah continued. What we want is quite simple: respect. And if that's not possible, she let the implication hang in the air, unspoken but unmistakable. The humans weren't making threats. They were simply stating facts. The galaxy had just discovered something it hadn't encountered before. Not merely a new species, but a new type of predator. One that killed with cooperation instead of claws. One that hunted with technology instead of fangs. One that had turned adaptability itself into a weapon. Earth's children were stepping onto the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again. The meeting adjourned with the alien delegation retreating to their ship, ostensibly to consult with the Council. Everyone in the room knew they were frantically reassessing every assumption they'd made about humans. How long do you think before they come back? Lieutenant Rivera asked once the door sealed shut, her professional composure giving way to a more youthful excitement. Admiral Okonkwo's shoulders relaxed slightly. 8 hours, minimum. Their hierarchy requires multiple levels of authorization. Even panic follows protocol for them. He turned to Sarah. Commander Chen, excellent restraint in there. Your intelligence assessment was spot on. Sarah nodded, but her mind was already 3 steps ahead. They'll be scanning everything now. Properly this time. She glanced at Dr. Takahashi. Will Project Labyrinth hold up under scrutiny? The xenobiologist removed his glasses, a habit when thinking deeply. The beauty of Labyrinth isn't that it's unbreakable, Commander. It's that breaking it reveals exactly what we want them to see. Layers within layers. A small smile crossed his normally serious face, like human psychology itself. Sarah remembered the first time she'd met Takahashi, 5 years ago, when the initial alien probe appeared in Earth's orbit. Back then, he was just another brilliant academic, fascinated by the implications of first contact. Now he was perhaps the most important scientist on the planet, the man who'd reverse-engineered alien technology while simultaneously feeding them misinformation about human capabilities. Command wants us back at headquarters, Admiral Okonkwo announced, checking his secure comm. The President is addressing the United Earth Assembly in 3 hours. As they gathered their materials, Rivera approached Sarah. Commander, permission to speak freely? Always, Lieutenant. Do you really think this will work? Pushing back against species thousands of years more advanced than us, Sarah considered the young officer. Rivera had been recruited straight from MIT's quantum computing program, brilliant but inexperienced in the messier aspects of human conflict. Let me tell you something my grandfather told me when I was about your age. He fought in the resource wars before the unification. They walked together toward the secure elevator. He said, humans are terrible at anticipating disasters, but extraordinary at surviving them. We didn't prepare for climate change until coastlines started disappearing. We didn't unite as a species until water wars nearly destroyed us. But each time we adapted, we found solutions no one had imagined possible. The elevator descended silently toward the underground transport system. The aliens evolved on worlds that rewarded specialization. We evolved on a world that rewarded those who could adapt to constant change. Sarah's voice grew quieter. They're advanced, yes, but they're predictable. And in my experience, predictability is a fatal weakness. Rivera nodded, understanding dawning in her eyes. The journey to command headquarters took them through the heart of New Geneva, one of the 15 megacities built after the reconciliation. Through reinforced windows, Sarah watched ordinary people going about their lives, blissfully unaware that today might be the most pivotal day in human history, or perhaps not so unaware. Military presence had increased subtly over the past weeks. The public announcement of diplomatic negotiations with extraterrestrial representatives had been deliberately vague, but humans were naturally suspicious creatures. Social media was ablaze with theories, some surprisingly close to the truth. The underground train slowed as they approached the security checkpoint leading to Command HQ. Built into the Alps, the facility represented the pinnacle of human defensive architecture, a fortress within a mountain. Commander Chen, General Santos greeted them as they entered the Situation Room. The Joint Chiefs are waiting. And there's been a development. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. What kind of development? The Vraxian ship has broken formation with the main delegation. It's on a trajectory toward Luna Base. Admiral Okonkwo swore softly. They're making a move already. That's not consistent with their decision-making patterns. Unless they're not acting on council orders, Sarah suggested. The Vraxians had the most aggressive body language during the meeting. They may be operating independently. General Santos nodded grimly. That's our assessment as well. We've activated Contingency Helios. Sarah exchanged a glance with Dr. Takahashi, whose expression had grown grave. Contingency Helios was one of their more extreme response plans, revealing technological capabilities they'd hoped to keep hidden much longer. The Situation Room hummed with controlled urgency as they entered. Tactical displays showed the Vraxian vessel's approach vector toward humanity's lunar outpost. Luna Base housed 30,000 civilians and the quantum entanglement array that served as Earth's backup communications hub, strategically valuable but deliberately understaffed with military personnel to appear non-threatening. Status report, Admiral Okonkwo demanded as they took their positions at the command table. The Vraxian ship is maintaining course, but hasn't powered weapons systems, responded Captain Hall from Lunar Defense. They've ignored 3 requests for clarification of intent. Show me the weapon options, Sarah requested, and a holographic display materialized above the table. The revealed defensive capabilities would have shocked the alien delegation. Technologies Earth had developed by adapting principles from studying the aliens' own systems. We've evacuated non-essential personnel to the subsurface shelters. Captain Hall continued. Defense grid is powered but passive. If they're scanning, they'll detect minimal activity. Sarah studied the tactical display, feeling the weight of the moment. Their careful plans for a controlled revelation of Earth's true capabilities were unraveling. If they used the hidden defense systems, they'd reveal their technological advancement. If they didn't, they risked losing Luna Base. "What do we know about Vraxian psychology?" she asked, turning to Dr. Takahashi. "They evolved from hive predators," he replied. "Pack hunters with hierarchical structures. Their historical records suggest they respect demonstrations of strength, but interpret restraint as weakness." "They're testing us," Sarah realized. "The delegation is officially consulting with their superiors, but the Vraxians are conducting their own assessment." Admiral Okonkwo nodded slowly. "Classic divide and conquer. The Council maintains plausible deniability while gathering intelligence on our response capabilities." The room fell silent as implications sank in. This wasn't just a diplomatic negotiation anymore. It was the opening move in a very dangerous game. "General," Sarah said finally, "I recommend we implement Mosaic Protocol." Eyebrows raised around the table. Mosaic was a stratagem developed specifically for fractured alien responses, showing different capabilities to different species, creating confusion and contradiction in their intelligence assessments. "That's high risk, Commander," General Santos cautioned. "If they compare notes." "They won't," Sarah interrupted. "At least not accurately. Each species perceives differently, physiologically and culturally. The Quilorians don't even have a color spectrum that matches the Xanthari. We can use those differences." Dr. Takahashi nodded enthusiastically. "It's actually brilliant. The Vraxians communicate primarily through pheromones and subharmonics. Whatever they report back won't translate perfectly to the other species." Lieutenant Rivera spoke up. "We could show them something they'd understand, but others wouldn't. Their exoskeletons resonate at specific frequencies." "Do it," Admiral Okonkwo decided. "Authorized. But nothing that appears directly aggressive." As the commands went out, Sarah watched the tactical display with the focused attention of a predator. Humanity was revealing itself to the galaxy, not all at once, but in calculated fragments designed to confuse and divide their observers. The galaxy had categorized Earth as just another world to absorb into their orderly civilization. They were about to discover their mistake. Humans weren't just another species to be cataloged and controlled. They were evolution's most patient hunters, and the hunt had just begun. The Vraxian ship halted precisely 10,000 kilometers from Luna Base, holding position just beyond what they believed was Earth's defense perimeter. They were wrong by a factor of 3, but Sarah saw no reason to correct their miscalculation. "They've launched something," announced Captain Hall, his voice steady despite the tension. 4 objects, roughly 2 meters in diameter each, minimal power signatures, approaching Luna at low velocity. "Probes," Dr. Takahashi concluded, adjusting his display to track the objects. "Consistent with their standard reconnaissance patterns." Sarah exchanged glances with Admiral Okonkwo. This was the moment, their first real test. What they revealed now would shape all future interactions with the Galactic Council. "Implement Mosaic as planned," the Admiral ordered. "Lunar defense grid remains dark. Activate resonance countermeasures only." Sarah watched as commands flowed through the system. Beneath Luna's surface, technologies that most of humanity didn't even know existed hummed to life. Not weapons, something far more subtle. "Resonance field active," Lieutenant Rivera confirmed. "Calibrated specifically to Vraxian sensory range." On the display, the alien probes continued their approach, unaware that they were now passing through fields designed to affect only Vraxian technology. The frequencies had been carefully calculated based on the crystalline structure of their exoskeletons and the similar materials in their technology. "Will this damage their systems?" General Santos asked. Dr. Takahashi shook his head, "Not detectably. It will create noise in their readings, inconsistencies that their hive mentality will find deeply unsettling. Like trying to solve a puzzle with pieces that constantly change shape." Minutes passed in tense silence. The probes reached Luna's orbit, scanning the base and surrounding terrain. "They're transmitting data back to their ship," Captain Hall reported. Sarah leaned forward. "Now we see if our theory holds." 20 minutes later, they had their answer. The Vraxian ship began adjusting its position, moving laterally across Luna's orbit rather than approaching further. "They're confused," Dr. Takahashi said, unable to hide his satisfaction. "The resonance field is working. Their scans show infrastructure that appears and disappears, energy signatures that don't match expected patterns." "They are calling for reinforcements," interrupted a communications specialist. "Message sent to the main delegation. High priority encryption." Admiral Okonkwo smiled thinly. "And so the game truly begins. Well done, everyone." But Sarah felt a tingle at the base of her neck, the same feeling she'd experienced in combat situations when something wasn't quite right. "They gave up too easily," she said quietly. "The Vraxians are aggressive, yes, but they're also methodical. This feels wrong." The Admiral nodded slowly. "Keep all systems at full alert. I want eyes on." "New contact," Captain Hall shouted, coming around Luna's far side. It's not one of theirs." The tactical display shifted to show a vessel emerging from behind Earth's moon, sleek, dark, and moving with impossible speed. "That's a Sentinel-class ship," Dr. Takahashi breathed, his usual composure cracking. "Zinthari deep reconnaissance. They're not supposed to have those anywhere near regulated space." Sarah felt ice in her veins. The Zinthari, with their compound eyes and photosynthetic skin, had presented themselves as the most peaceful of the delegation. If they had positioned stealth ships in Earth's orbit before formal contact, they were never negotiating in good faith, Admiral Okonkwo said grimly. "This entire diplomatic exchange has been theater." The Vraxian move was a distraction, Sarah realized. They wanted us looking at their ship while the Zinthari positioned for what? The answer came moments later as the Zinthari vessel fired a concentrated burst of energy, not at Luna Base or Earth, but directly at the approaching Vraxian probes. All four detonated simultaneously. "What the hell?" General Santos demanded. "They're firing on their own allies." "No," Sarah understood suddenly. "They're destroying evidence. Those weren't simple probes. They were carrying something. Something the Zinthari don't want us to find." The Situation Room erupted with activity as new defensive protocols activated. Earth's hidden satellite network began tracking the Zinthari vessel, which was now accelerating away from Luna at speeds that shouldn't have been possible based on the technology they'd claimed to possess. "We need to recover any debris from those probes," Sarah insisted. "Get lunar teams out there immediately." "Commander," Lieutenant Rivera called, her voice tight with urgency. "We're detecting biological signatures dispersing from the probe detonation points. Airborne particulates spreading through Luna's minimal atmosphere." Dr. Takahashi's face went pale. "Biological? That's not." The Council claimed they abandoned biological weapons millennia ago. It was the first protocol they showed us. Apparently they lied. Admiral Okonkwo said darkly, "Initiate quarantine procedures for Luna Base. No transports in or out. And get me the president." Sarah's mind raced. If the aliens had deployed biological agents, then this wasn't just a diplomatic incident. It was an act of war. But war against whom? The Vraxians, who deployed the probes. The Zinthari, who destroyed them. The entire Galactic Council. "We're receiving an emergency transmission from the main delegation," announced the communications specialist. "They're demanding immediate contact." "Put them through," ordered Admiral Okonkwo. "Main screen only. No data links." The screen flickered to life, showing the Coulorian representative, their normally pale skin flushed with what Sarah recognized as their species' version of alarm. "We must speak with your leaders immediately," the alien demanded without preamble. "A grave situation has developed." "You mean the biological attack your council members just attempted on our lunar colony?" Admiral Okonkwo's voice was ice. "Or is there another grave situation we should be aware of?" The Coulorian's compound eyes blinked rapidly. "That action was not sanctioned by the Council. We are as alarmed as you. The Vraxians have violated multiple treaties by deploying Cedars, and the Zintheri have exceeded their authority by intervening with military force. Cedars, Dr. Takahashi repeated sharply. What exactly were in those probes? The Quilorian hesitated, mandibles clicking nervously. I am not authorized to. Listen carefully, Admiral Okonkwo cut in. 30,000 human lives are now at risk. If you withhold information that could save them, you will be personally responsible for what happens next. And I promise you, the consequences will be severe. Sarah watched the alien's body language, noting the subtle shifts that indicated internal conflict. The Quilorian hierarchy was strict. Breaking protocol was nearly unthinkable for them. But fear was a universal motivator. They are terraforming agents, the Quilorian finally admitted, designed to reconfigure planetary environments to suit specific biological profiles. The Vraxians have used them to claim disputed territories before, but never in this manner. Dr. Takahashi swore under his breath. They're trying to make Luna more hospitable for their own species, changing its composition on a molecular level. And the Zintheri destroyed the probes because... Sarah pressed. Because they have their own designs on your system, the Quilorian replied. The Council. There are factions forming. Some see Earth as too valuable to allow any single species to claim it. The pieces fell into place in Sarah's mind with terrible clarity. Earth wasn't being invited to join a unified galactic community. It was being pulled into an ancient power struggle between alien factions. The diplomatic mission was a facade, a way for each species to position themselves for control of humanity's resource-rich planet. They weren't facing the unified threat. They were facing something potentially worse, a proxy war between advanced alien civilizations, with Earth as the battleground. Full planetary defense protocols. Admiral Okonkwo ordered, his voice steady despite the escalating crisis. All military personnel to combat stations, and informed the President, we're initiating Phoenix Protocol. Sarah felt her heart race. Phoenix Protocol was the most extreme contingency they'd developed, a plan they hoped never to use. It would reveal every technological advancement, every hidden weapon, every strategy they'd developed since first detecting alien signals decades ago. As alarms sounded throughout the command center, Sarah looked at the tactical display showing Earth, beautiful, blue, and suddenly desperately vulnerable. The alien ships in orbit were repositioning, each species clearly preparing for conflict not just with humanity, but with each other. Humanity had played the role of primitive newcomers, concealing their true capabilities while they assessed the alien threat. That strategy was no longer viable. Now they would have to show the galaxy exactly what Earth's children were capable of when truly threatened. The hunt was over. The war was about to begin. Phoenix Protocol unleashed a storm of activity across Earth's defense network. Hidden installations on every continent activated simultaneously. Orbital platforms that had masqueraded as research stations shed their civilian disguises, revealing weapon systems that would have been impossible based on humanity's supposed technological level. All defense grids online, Captain Hall reported, his voice steady despite the enormity of what they were doing. Lunar countermeasures active. Deep space sensors at maximum range. Sarah watched as the tactical display transformed, showing the true extent of Earth's military capabilities. Capabilities they had concealed even from most of their own population. The alien vessels in orbit suddenly appeared much less imposing. We're receiving multiple emergency communications from all Council species, the communications officer announced. They're demanding explanations. Let them wait. Admiral Okonkwo replied coldly. Secure Luna Base first. What's the status of the biological contamination? Dr. Takahashi was hunched over a console, coordinating with the lunar science team. Containment fields are holding. The terraforming agents appear designed for geological alteration, not direct biological impact on humans. Our people should be safe if they remain in the sealed habitats. Sarah felt a momentary relief, but the respite was short-lived. New contacts. Lieutenant Rivera called out, her voice rising. Multiple signatures emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Larger vessels, capital ship class. The display shifted to show massive ships appearing near Neptune's orbit. Dozens of them, representing every council species. They weren't just sending a diplomatic mission, Sarah realized. This was an advance team for a full invasion force. Admiral Okonkwo's face hardened. How long until they reach Earth orbit? At their current acceleration. 48 hours, sir. General Santos shook his head in disbelief. That's an armada. Even with Phoenix Protocol active, we can't possibly. Something's wrong. Dr. Takahashi interrupted, studying the new arrivals intently. Those ships, they're engaging each other. Look at their formation and energy patterns. He was right. The massive fleet wasn't moving in concert. Instead, vessels were separating into faction-based groupings, weapons powering up as they maneuvered against each other. The Quilorian wasn't lying, Sarah said. The Council really is fractured. Those aren't reinforcements. They're competing invasion forces. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth wasn't facing a unified alien threat, but rather multiple advanced civilizations racing to claim human territory as their own. This changes nothing, Admiral Okonkwo decided. We proceed with Phoenix Protocol. Lieutenant Rivera, begin evacuation of all non-essential personnel from orbital facilities. Dr. Takahashi, I need options for Luna Base. As the command center erupted with activity, Sarah's secure comm pinged with an urgent message. Her blood ran cold as she read it. Admiral, she said, keeping her voice low. We have a situation at Deep Mountain Complex. Okonkwo moved to her side, reading the message over her shoulder. His expression remained neutral, but Sarah saw his knuckles whiten as he gripped the console. When? He asked simply. 20 minutes ago. Right when Phoenix activated. The Admiral nodded once. Take a team. Minimum footprint. This doesn't leave this room. Sarah gathered Rivera and 2 trusted security officers, briefing them in the corridor outside. Deep Mountain was one of humanity's most classified installations, a facility even most of the Joint Chiefs didn't know existed. If there was a security breach there, the implications were catastrophic. Their hypersonic transport broke the sound barrier seconds after leaving Geneva, streaking across the Atlantic toward the Rocky Mountains. The journey that would have taken hours by conventional aircraft took just 30 minutes. What exactly are we looking for, Commander? Rivera asked as they began their descent. Something that shouldn't exist, Sarah replied grimly. Deep Mountain appeared unchanged as they approached. A seemingly ordinary research station nestled high in the Rockies. But the security systems told a different story. Multiple breaches had been detected simultaneously with Phoenix Protocol's activation. Sarah led her team through the reinforced entrance, past security checkpoints where guards lay unconscious rather than dead. A small mercy that only deepened her suspicion. Life signs, asked, weapon drawn as they moved deeper into the facility. Multiple. Rivera confirmed, checking her scanner, concentrated in the central chamber. They moved silently through abandoned corridors until they reached the main laboratory doors. Sarah gave the signal, and her team positioned themselves for entry. What they found inside stopped them cold. Dr. Eliza Warren, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, stood in the center of the room, surrounded by floating holographic displays showing the incoming alien fleet. She wasn't alone. 3 figures stood with her, humanoid but clearly not human, their iridescent skin and elongated limbs marking them as a species not represented in the Council delegation. Commander Chen, Warren acknowledged calmly, as if this were a scheduled meeting. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Step away from them, Doctor, Sarah ordered, weapon trained on the nearest alien. You're in violation of at least 16 security protocols. Warren smiled, a gesture that seemed suddenly foreign on her familiar face. You misunderstand the situation, Commander. I'm not in danger. Neither is Earth, if you'll allow me to explain. "These aren't Council species," Rivera whispered, her scanner struggling to categorize the aliens. "No," Warren agreed. "They represent the coalition of free worlds, systems that rejected Council rule centuries ago. They've been watching Earth for decades, waiting for the right moment to make contact." Sarah kept her weapon steady. "And they chose now, when we're on the brink of interstellar war." Precisely because of that, one of the aliens spoke, its voice melodious despite the gravity of the situation. "The Council has hidden the truth from countless developing worlds. They present themselves as unified benefactors, while secretly competing to exploit new species. You expect us to believe you're here to help?" Sarah scoffed. "After infiltrating our most secure facility." "We've been here for years," Warren said quietly. "I've been working with them since they first approached me during the Antarctic expedition. Everything I've learned about Council species, their weaknesses, their technology, their true intentions, came from Coalition intelligence." Sarah felt as though the floor were shifting beneath her. If Warren was telling the truth, Earth's entire defensive strategy was based on information provided by a third party they knew nothing about. "Why reveal yourselves now?" she demanded. The alien gestured toward the displays showing the approaching armada. "Because humanity has just demonstrated something remarkable. You've achieved what no other species has managed in millennia of Council expansion. You've forced them to reveal their true nature before they could establish control." Warren stepped forward. "Commander, what's happening out there isn't just a crisis. It's an opportunity. The Coalition has been fighting a shadow war against Council domination for generations. With Earth as an ally, they believe the balance of power could finally shift." Sarah studied the aliens, searching for signs of deception. "And the price of this alliance?" "Knowledge," another alien replied. "Technology. Fair exchange, not subjugation. The Council fears species like yours. Adaptable, unpredictable, innovative. The Coalition embraces those qualities." Rivera lowered her weapon slightly. "Commander, if they wanted to harm us, why reveal themselves only to a small team? Why not take control when Phoenix activated?" It was a good point. If these Coalition aliens had infiltrated to this level years ago, they could have sabotaged Earth's defenses at the most critical moment. Instead, they were offering an alliance. Sarah's comm chirped, Admiral Okonkwo requesting an update. The clock was ticking. In less than 48 hours, a fleet of warring alien factions would reach Earth, each determined to claim humanity for themselves. "You have 10 minutes, she told Warren, and the aliens, lowering her weapon a fraction. "Tell me everything. What the Coalition really wants, what they know about Council weaknesses, and most importantly, why we should trust them when the entire galaxy seems determined to turn Earth into a battlefield." The lead alien's expression shifted into what might have been a smile. "Trust is earned, Commander Chen. But perhaps start with this. We know about the Ascension Project, and we can help you complete it before the Council arrives." Sarah couldn't hide her shock. Ascension was Earth's most classified initiative, a theoretical weapons platform that could neutralize advanced propulsion systems across the entire solar system. If these aliens knew about it, and could help activate it ahead of schedule, humanity might just have a fighting chance after all. 36 hours later, Sarah stood in the Unified Command Center beneath Mount Chan, watching as humanity prepared for the battle that would determine its future. After extensive verification and the President's direct intervention, Dr. Warren's Coalition contacts had been cautiously integrated into Earth's defense strategy. "Ascension platform is online," Lieutenant Rivera reported, her face drawn from lack of sleep, but eyes bright with determination. Coalition engineers confirmed the calibrations. "We have system-wide coverage." Admiral Okonkwo nodded grimly. "Status of the Council fleet?" "Still engaged in intermittent combat among themselves," Captain Hall replied. "The Vraxian and Syntheri vessels have formed an uneasy alliance. Kulorian ships are maintaining distance but appear combat-ready. Estimated time to Earth orbit: 11 hours, 17 minutes. Sarah studied the tactical display, where hundreds of alien vessels now appeared as glowing points of light moving inexorably toward Earth. If the Coalition representatives were to be believed, this was the largest Council fleet mobilization in over 3 centuries. "Dr. Takahashi, report on Luna Base," she requested. The xenobiologist looked up from his console. "Containment holding. The terraforming agents have been neutralized using Coalition protocols." "But, Commander," he hesitated. "The Coalition's bioanalysis suggests these weren't standard terraforming packages. They contained modified genetic sequences specifically designed to interact with human DNA." A chill ran through the command center. "What exactly does that mean, Doctor?" the President asked through the secure video link. Dr. Warren stepped forward, flanked by the Coalition representative they now knew as Ambassador Threll. "It means the Council, or at least the Vraxians, have been studying humanity more thoroughly than we realized. These weren't just terraforming agents. They were test vectors for potential biological manipulation of human physiology. They were trying to make us more controllable," Sarah concluded, the realization settling like ice in her stomach. "More compatible with their governance systems." "Precisely," Ambassador Threll confirmed, his iridescent skin shifting colors with emotion. "The Council has employed similar tactics with other species. Those who resist conventional diplomatic pressure often find their populations experiencing mysterious genetic shifts over generations, becoming more docile, less innovative." The President's expression hardened. "Then we have no choice. We cannot allow any Council vessel to reach Earth orbit. Initiate ascension." Admiral Okonkwo gave the command, and throughout the solar system, hidden platforms activated simultaneously. Earth had spent decades reverse engineering alien propulsion technology from recovered fragments and Coalition insights. The result was ascension, a network capable of generating a field that would disrupt the quantum tunneling mechanisms all Council ships relied upon for propulsion. Field expanding, Rivera reported as the massive energy signatures radiated outward from Earth, reaching Mars orbit, Jupiter orbit, approaching Neptune. On the display, the effect was immediate and devastating. Council vessels suddenly lost the ability to accelerate, their engines flaring erratically as emergency systems engage. What had been an organized fleet approaching Earth became a scattered collection of drifting warships. "It worked," someone whispered, breaking the tense silence. But Sarah knew better than to celebrate prematurely. "They'll adapt," she warned. "Council technology is resilient. How long can we maintain the field?" 72 hours at current power, Dr. Warren replied. "After that, the containment systems will require reset and cooling." Admiral Okonkwo nodded. "Then we have 3 days to end this conclusively." "Ambassador Threll, you claimed your Coalition vessels were standing by." "They are," the alien confirmed, "positioned beyond the heliopause, awaiting your signal. But Commander Chen is correct. The Council will adapt more quickly than you might expect. We should implement the second phase immediately." The second phase was what had convinced Earth's leadership to trust the Coalition, at least provisionally. Rather than simply defending Earth, they proposed exposing the Council's fractured nature to all species under its control. The Coalition had spent decades gathering evidence of the Council's internal conflicts and manipulations. Now they planned to broadcast that evidence across all Council communication channels simultaneously. "Begin the transmission," the President ordered. Throughout the solar system, Earth's communication array, augmented by Coalition technology, sent highly targeted transmissions to each disabled Council vessel. Not appeals or threats, but evidence. Countless records showing how Council species had manipulated, exploited, and betrayed one another while presenting a unified front to the galaxy. "The Vraxian flagship is hailing us," Captain Hall announced. "And 3 Quilorian vessels as well. The Zinthari are attempting to jam our signal. Put them through." Admiral Okonkwo decided, one at a time. "Vraxians first." The main screen flickered to life, showing the Vraxian High Commander, a massive armored figure whose mandibles clicked with barely contained fury. "You have committed an act of war against the Council," the alien began, but Admiral Okonkwo cut him off. "There is no Council," he replied coldly. "Not anymore. Your unity was always a fiction, maintained to intimidate less advanced species. That ends today." The Vraxian's compound eye shifted, focusing past the Admiral to where Ambassador Threll stood. "Coalition interference," he hissed. "This explains much. You have aligned yourselves with rebels and outcasts, humans. This decision will doom your species." Sarah stepped forward. "We've aligned ourselves with those who approached us honestly, rather than those who attempted biological warfare against our lunar colony. The evidence we're broadcasting shows centuries of Council deception. How many other developing worlds have you subjugated through similar methods?" Before the Vraxian could respond, alarms blared throughout the command center. "Energy spike," Rivera called out. "Massive power buildup from the Zinthari vessels. They're firing on the Vraxian flagship." On the display, brilliant streaks of energy lanced between the alien ships. The Council fleet, already disabled by Ascension, erupted into open warfare. "As expected," Ambassador Threll observed calmly. "When faced with exposure, the Council species will turn on each other rather than acknowledge their deceptions." For the next 6 hours, Earth watched as the once mighty Council armada tore itself apart. Ships that had traveled together across interstellar distances now unleashed weapons of terrifying power against former allies. Each faction accused the others of betrayal, sabotage, and conspiracy. "Coalition vessels have entered the system," Captain Hall reported. "They're positioning themselves between Earth and the Council fleet." The war that might have ended humanity before it truly began had been averted, but Sarah felt no triumph, only grim determination and lingering suspicion. She pulled Admiral Okonkwo aside, while the others focused on the tactical display. "This worked out too perfectly," she said quietly. "The Coalition knew exactly how the Council would react, almost as if they'd planned this scenario for a very long time." The Admiral finished. "I know. Keep our own defenses at maximum. Trust is earned, not given." 3 days later, representatives from all major Council factions arrived at the neutral location of Ceres for emergency negotiations. With their fleet in disarray and their unity shattered, they had little choice but to treat with humanity as equals rather than subjects. The Coalition stood with Earth, their advanced vessels ensuring the Council representatives arrived unarmed and cooperative. Sarah observed the negotiations alongside Dr. Takahashi, watching as humanity, represented by the President and a team of diplomats, secured unprecedented concessions. Earth would remain sovereign. Human colonies could expand throughout the solar system without interference. Council technology would be shared openly, not parceled out as rewards for compliance. "We did it," Dr. Takahashi said wonderingly as the final agreements were formalized. "We actually forced the most powerful interstellar government in known space to recognize us as equals." But Sarah's attention had shifted to Ambassador Threll, who stood at the periphery of the chamber, speaking quietly with Dr. Warren. Their body language triggered the same instincts that had kept her alive through countless combat situations. "Maybe," she replied, excusing herself to move closer to the pair. "Timeline has accelerated considerably," she overheard Dr. Warren saying. "The genetic markers are appearing faster than projected." Ambassador Threll's skin rippled with colors Sarah couldn't interpret. "This is unexpected, but not necessarily problematic. The Council's biological agents may have been more sophisticated than we realized." "What biological agents?" Sarah interrupted, hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. Both turned, Dr. Warren's expression shifting from surprise to resignation. "Commander Chen, I was hoping to brief you formally after the negotiations concluded." "Brief me now," Sarah insisted. Ambassador Threll inclined his elongated head. "The terraforming agents deployed at Luna Base weren't entirely neutralized. Trace elements entered your atmospheric processors. Minimal exposure, affecting perhaps 1% of your population. Affecting them how? Sarah demanded, cold dread settling in her stomach. Enhancing them, Dr. Warren replied calmly. The same adaptability that makes humans unique is being accelerated. The Coalition has seen this before, on other worlds. It's why they sought alliance with Earth specifically. You knew this would happen, Sarah realized, looking between them. The Council's attack, the biological agents, you anticipated all of it. Not anticipated, Ambassador Threll corrected gently. Recognized. There are patterns to how advanced civilizations interact with developing worlds. The Council has used the same strategies for millennia. The Coalition simply positioned itself to help when the inevitable occurred. Sarah's mind raced. And these enhanced humans, what happens to them? Dr. Warren's expression softened. They become something new, Commander. The genetic changes grant heightened cognitive abilities, increased empathy, extended lifespan. The beginning of humanity's next evolutionary step. Under Coalition guidance, of course, Sarah added, the final piece clicking into place. Neither denied it. Earth has won its independence from the Council, Ambassador Threll said after a moment. That victory is real and significant. But the galaxy is vast and complex. Humanity will need allies as it expands beyond this system. The Coalition offers partnership based on mutual growth, not subjugation. Sarah looked back at the negotiation table, where humanity's representatives celebrated their diplomatic triumph, unaware that a second, more subtle game was already well advanced. Does the President know? She asked quietly. Some of it, Dr. Warren admitted. The full implications are still emerging. Earth had survived its first interstellar crisis and emerged stronger than anyone could have anticipated. But as Sarah watched the Coalition representatives move among her fellow humans, she understood that independence was always relative in a galaxy of ancient powers and hidden agendas. The predator had avoided becoming prey, but the hunt was far from over. It had merely entered a new phase, one that would determine not just humanity's place among the stars, but what it might ultimately become. 3 months after the Council crisis, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned ESS Prometheus, Earth's first interstellar vessel. Below her, Earth shimmered like a blue jewel, peaceful from this distance despite the profound changes reshaping human civilization. Beautiful view, Admiral Okonkwo commented, joining her at the viewport. Hard to believe everything that's happened since that first diplomatic meeting. Sarah nodded, remembering how naive they'd seemed back then, thinking they could simply negotiate their way into galactic society. We've come a long way. Too far, too fast, some would say, the Admiral replied, his voice low enough that only she could hear. The Coalition integration teams are on every continent now. Their technology is revolutionizing everything from medicine to agriculture. And the enhanced humans? Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. Over 30,000 confirmed cases. The President receives daily briefings on their progress. Okonkwo's expression remained neutral, but concern lurked in his eyes. Dr. Warren says we're seeing only positive effects. Increased cognitive abilities, immune system improvements, heightened sensory perception. So far, Sarah added. The Admiral nodded. So far. They both understood the unspoken reality. Earth had traded one form of alien influence for another. More benevolent, perhaps, but influence nonetheless. Your new orders, Okonkwo said, changing the subject as he handed her a secure datapad. The Joint Chiefs approved it this morning. Sarah scanned the document, her eyebrows rising. Operation Vigilant Observer. This is ambitious. Your idea, your command, the Admiral replied. A specialized unit operating independently from both regular military channels and Coalition oversight. Your team will monitor alien activities throughout our system and beyond, assessing potential threats and opportunities. You're worried the Coalition isn't telling us everything, Sarah stated. Not a question. I'm certain they aren't, Okonkwo said. Just as I'm certain the Council isn't as fractured as they want us to believe. The galaxy is full of ancient powers playing very long games. Humanity needs people who understand that, who think like predators, not prey. Sarah looked at the crew roster attached to her orders. Lieutenant Rivera, Dr. Takahashi, and others who had proven themselves during the crisis. Good people. Skeptical people. When do we start? Immediately, Okonkwo replied. The Prometheus departs for Proxima Centauri tomorrow on its maiden voyage, officially as a goodwill mission coordinated with coalition representatives. He paused. Unofficially, you'll be assessing what's really happening on our nearest stellar neighbor. Earth's rapid advancement had come with costs beyond the physical. Old political structures strained under the pressure of adapting to a galaxy-wide perspective. Some embraced the changes, eager to claim humanity's place among the stars. Others warned of moving too quickly, of losing what made humans unique in their rush to catch up with more advanced civilizations. Dr. Takahashi met Sarah in the Prometheus's laboratory the next day as final preparations for launch were underway. The ship hummed with activity, human engineers working alongside coalition advisors, integrating technologies that would have seemed miraculous just months earlier. "Commander, you need to see this," he said without preamble, leading her to a secure terminal. "I've been analyzing the biological samples from the enhanced individuals. I thought Dr. Warren's team was handling that research," Sarah replied, instantly alert to the scientist's concerned tone. "They are, officially, but I've been running parallel studies off the record." He pulled up a series of genetic profiles. The enhancements aren't random mutations. They're following a specific pattern, one the coalition seems very familiar with. Sarah studied the data, though much of it exceeded her scientific knowledge. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "Convergent evolution," he explained. "The genetic changes in affected humans are making them more compatible with coalition neurology. Their brain wave patterns are shifting toward frequencies that would facilitate deeper connection with coalition communication systems. They're changing us to be more like them," Sarah concluded. "Not subjugation through force, but through transformation," Takahashi finished, "possibly with genuine benevolent intent. The enhanced humans report overwhelmingly positive experiences, expanded consciousness, deeper empathy, improved well-being. Making it impossible to argue against," Sarah noted. "Have you shared this with Admiral Okonkwo?" "Not yet. I wanted your assessment first, given your new assignment." Sarah considered the implications. Unlike the Council's attempted biological manipulation, the Coalition's approach offered tangible benefits. The enhanced humans weren't becoming mindless servants. They were becoming something new, something potentially greater than baseline humanity. But the loss of self-determination remained a profound concern. "Keep monitoring, but secure your data thoroughly," she decided. "And prepare to join the Prometheus mission. I want you continuing this research firsthand when we reach Proxima Centauri." The massive starship launched the following day, its coalition-enhanced drives, allowing it to reach speeds that would have been theoretical just months earlier. Sarah watched from the bridge as Earth receded behind them, feeling the weight of responsibility settle more firmly on her shoulders. Captain Hall, now commanding the Prometheus, approached her station. "Commander Chen, we'll reach Proxima Centauri in approximately 72 hours. The Coalition representatives have requested your presence at the preliminary briefing." "Thank you, Captain. I'll be there." The briefing revealed the official purpose of their mission: establishing Earth's first extrasolar outpost with Coalition guidance. Ambassador Threll outlined the opportunities Proxima Centauri offered: resources, scientific discovery, strategic positioning. All logical, all beneficial for humanity's expansion. Yet Sarah noticed what wasn't discussed: why the Coalition was so interested in accelerating human developments, specifically why they had positioned themselves to intervene exactly when the Council threatened Earth, and why they seemed unconcerned about sharing advanced technologies that could potentially be used against them. "Ambassador," she asked during a break in the presentation, You mentioned that Proxima Centauri once hosted a Coalition research facility. What kind of research was conducted there? Threll's skin shifted through subtle color patterns. Evolutionary biology, primarily. The Proxima system contains unique stellar radiation patterns that accelerate certain genetic adaptations. It proved most illuminating for understanding species development paths. Sarah filed this information away. Another piece of a puzzle still taking shape. And was this before or after your conflict with the Council? During. Threll replied with surprising candor. The facility was eventually abandoned when Council forces pushed into this sector. We're quite pleased to return under more favorable circumstances. Over the following weeks, as the Prometheus established Earth's presence in the Proxima system, Sarah's team conducted their parallel investigation. They discovered remnants of the Coalition facility embedded deep within an asteroid belt, far more extensive than the briefings had suggested. These aren't just research installations, Lieutenant Rivera reported after their third covert expedition. Based on the power requirements and structural layouts, these were massive genetic engineering facilities. Dr. Takahashi nodded in agreement. The radiation patterns here are similar to what we're seeing in the enhanced humans back on Earth. I believe the Coalition was using this system as a laboratory for directed evolution experiments. The question is, Sarah said, were they preparing for their own evolution or someone else's? The answer came unexpectedly during what should have been a routine diplomatic exchange. A damaged vessel appeared at the edge of the system, Council design, but bearing unfamiliar markings. The Prometheus moved to intercept, with Sarah joining the first contact team. The ship contained only 3 survivors, representatives of a species Sarah hadn't encountered before. They identified themselves as the Ardiri, claiming to be refugees from both Council and Coalition control. You are the humans, Leader said when Sarah introduced herself. Word has spread quickly of your resistance to Council integration. Many watch your development with great interest and concern. Sarah suggested. The alien made a gesture she couldn't interpret. The Coalition approached you directly, yes. Offered alliance against Council aggression. Sarah confirmed this cautiously. As they did with us 7 centuries ago, and the Tellarites before us, and others before them. The Ardiri's compound eyes fixed on Sarah with disconcerting intensity. We were once much like you, adaptable, diverse, questioning. Valuable traits the Coalition sought to cultivate. Over the next several hours, the Ardiri shared their history, how the Coalition had presented itself as saviors against Council expansion, offered technological advancement, and gradually guided their species toward beneficial genetic enhancement. The parallels to humanity's current situation were uncomfortably precise. What happened to your people? Sarah asked finally. We became perfect tools, the Ardiri replied simply. Not slaves. The Coalition's method is far more elegant. We evolved into forms that naturally served their needs, believing each step was our own choice. Only a few of us maintained enough genetic diversity to question the process. Sarah had the Ardiri's claims thoroughly investigated, comparing their evidence against what they'd discovered in the abandoned research facilities. The conclusion was inescapable. The Coalition had been guiding species evolution for millennia, creating specialized client races that willingly served their interests. When she presented her findings to Admiral Okonkwo via secure quantum communication, his response was measured but resolute. Return to Earth immediately, Commander. The President and Joint Chiefs need this information before we integrate any more Coalition technology. There's something else, Sarah added. The Ardiri believe the Coalition and Council aren't truly separate powers. Their evidence suggests both are controlled by a higher authority. Different strategies serving the same ultimate goals. The Admiral's expression remained stoic, but she saw the shock in his eyes. If that's true, then the entire crisis was orchestrated, Sarah finished. A test of our capabilities and reactions, and possibly a means of identifying which humans would be most receptive to enhancement. The Prometheus made the return journey in record time, Driven by Sarah's growing concern for Earth, they arrived to find the planet transformed even further, orbital habitats under construction, advanced defense systems integrated into the lunar surface, and coalition representatives embedded in every major governmental body. The briefing with Earth's leadership lasted 14 hours, as Sarah's team presented everything they had discovered. The enhanced humans were invited to participate, their unique perspective deemed essential to the discussion. "If what you've uncovered is accurate," the president said finally, "we face a choice with no simple answer. Rejecting coalition assistance now would leave us vulnerable to council retaliation, yet continuing this partnership may lead to a more subtle form of subjugation." "Not necessarily," one of the enhanced humans interjected. Dr. Keller had been among the first affected at Luna Base. "The genetic changes we've experienced have indeed altered our neurological patterns, but not in the way the Ardiri described. We're becoming more connected to each other, not more controlled by the coalition." "Explain," Sarah requested. "We are developing a form of collective consciousness, similar to the coalition but distinctly human in nature. We can sense each other across vast distances, share information instantaneously." Dr. Keller smiled. "And we're beginning to sense the coalition's true thoughts as well. They can't hide their intentions from us anymore." This revelation shifted the entire dynamic. Earth's enhanced humans weren't becoming tools of alien influence. They were evolving into something neither the coalition nor council had anticipated. Humanity's unique evolutionary path, forged on a death world that rewarded both cooperation and individual innovation, was taking an unexpected turn. "We propose a third option," Dr. Keller continued. "Neither rejection nor subjugation, but a guided partnership where we control the pace and direction of integration. The enhanced among us can serve as intermediaries, ensuring no technology or genetic modification is accepted without full understanding of its consequences." In the months that followed, Earth implemented what became known as the Prometheus Protocol, a measured approach to galactic integration that maintained humanity's independence while selectively adopting beneficial advancements. Sarah's team expanded into a full-fledged intelligence agency, with both standard and enhanced humans working together to monitor alien activities throughout known space. Standing once again on the observation deck of the Prometheus, now one ship in a growing fleet of Earth vessels, Sarah reflected on how far they had come. The galaxy had expected humanity to play by established rules, to become either obedient servants or paranoid isolationists. Instead, Earth's children had forged their own path. "Commander Chen," Lieutenant Rivera called from the doorway, "the coalition representatives have arrived for the treaty signing." Sarah nodded, turning away from the viewport. "And our Ardiri friends, already in position throughout the delegation. If anything unexpected occurs, we'll know immediately." The treaty being signed today would establish formal boundaries between Earth, coalition, and council space, recognition of humanity as a legitimate interstellar power rather than a developing world to be claimed. It had taken countless hours of negotiation, several demonstrated displays of Earth's new defensive capabilities, and a growing network of enhanced humans to reach this point. As Sarah made her way to the diplomatic chamber, she passed humans and aliens working side by side. Neither masters nor servants, but partners in an uneasy balance of mutual interest. The shadow games would continue, she knew. Ancient powers didn't abandon millennia of manipulation overnight, but humanity was now playing the game with open eyes. Earth had entered the galactic community not as prey to be hunted, but as a new kind of predator, one that survived through adaptation rather than domination. The galaxy's established powers were still learning what that meant, some with excitement, others with growing concern. And as the treaty was signed, and Earth claimed its rightful place among the stars, Sarah allowed herself a moment of pride. Humanity's journey was just beginning, but they had already changed the rules of a game older than their civilization. Whatever came next, Earth's children would face it as they had always faced challenges, together, adaptable, and unwilling to accept any fate but the one they chose for themselves. The hunt would continue. But now, humanity was doing the hunting.